Ward with time. What a catch by Restrepo and a touchdown, Canes!
Now we're running the league 8-0. Isn't that sweet? You bet so. Top 5 team, baby, you know Miami's Restrepo. EA Sports ranked him too low. He should be like 100. This is his team, everyone knows he is him, Restrepo. We haven't lost, and we probably won't lose. Santana Moss soon in his rear view, cause it's 5'10" stud from here in Broward. They're smoking fools, vanquishing cowards. You know the X gon' give it to you wide open, even when he's covered. Could steal your girl and then your mother. You know the Cam's gon' throw it to him, and what you gonna do about it? These Kings are gonna win it all, yeah. Cause he's doing his thing, racking up dubs. Siete Restrepo, all ACC, baby, you know he is him, Restrepo. EA Sports ranked him too low, he should be like 100. This is his team, Miami's own Xavier Restrepo.
Restrepo over the middle to the 5, into the end zone.
House call, Xavier Restrepo.
Lots of in-demand tickets in the sport of college football, pro baseball, NBA. Look, all these great concerts and stand-up events. Where do you go to find tickets? What's the number one industry leader in the secondary ticket marketplace? We here on this show know, of course, it is Game Time. Do yourself a favor. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DAN, that is D-A-N, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Roy, what time is it? Game time.
It is a mind bleep of the highest order to think, Stugotz, that Jonathan Vilma, one time I asked him, among all athletes in the history of the University of Miami, who do you regard as the greatest of the athletes? And it used to be, a long time ago, Alonzo Highsmith. Mm-hmm. But then people upgraded that to say, have you ever seen Andre Johnson, who seems to have muscles on top of muscles? To see Restrepo take down every University of Miami wide receiver in the record book.
Crazy.
Super weird.
Yes.
Physically tiny, feels smaller to me than Berrios or any of those. Santana Moss feels physically smaller. It doesn't make any sense to me that he's going to demolish the University of Miami receiving record books.
And certainly less physically gifted than those receivers that you mentioned, not highly touted as a recruit, a guy that just did all the things, worked on his game. And you actually look at Miami, and I understand Cam Ward is highly touted coming from Washington State, was the number one transfer portal quarterback, depending on where you looked. He was a 0-star coming out of high school. Incarnate Word was his offer. So you look across.
That's crazy.
You look across the offense, and you see a guy like Zay Horton, who FSU was saying, you're not going to beat us over the top. What's there? Highest point type of catches, slants. Zay Horton, all of a sudden, a guy as a part of a big wide receiver core that had a lot of questions about it. Miami's really developing a lot of these players.
How did it feel to have a normal victory? Just, no one questioning it, no referees, nothing.
I wanted it to be.
You
No, I didn't miss that.
Right.
I wanted the final score to be more reflective of the actual type of beatdown that was. They had their biggest play was a QB sneak that went for 40 yards.
That's funny.
But the Canes are in the playoff, Mike. There's no one on the schedule that scares you at this point.
It's college football. They can
lose. They can lose, Stugotz. They can
You can
lose.
lose one
and then lose in the
Duke at
ACC
home?
championship. You can lose to
They're
Duke
not
at
going to
home.
lose.
No.
They're not going to
No.
lose.
It's possible.
No.
Don't underestimate Mario Cristobal here.
Trust me, I
It's a
never
fair
have.
point.
But
Yeah.
they're not going to lose this year. Trust me on this.
Brad Kaya is the all-time leading passer in Hurricanes history, huh?
You mentioned Mario Cristobal, and you mentioned the one-score games that Miami has been in. Those one-score games, ample opportunity for Mario Cristobal to blow a game. One bad decision, and you lose that game in their close games. He pushed all the right buttons, so maybe maybe, just maybe, he's learned to bring in people into his staff that can mitigate some of those concerns, which are not invalid.
Jessica, you do not have it possible them losing the ACC championship game? Like, are you just doing regular season schedule games? Like,
I mean, even if they did lose the ACC championship game, I think they'd still be in the playoff, and I think they have a real shot at winning a potential ACC championship game, even if it's against Clemson, which is looking like the best team in the conference right now.
I'm a little bit more worried after watching the FSU game about Clemson. I was watching that. I was starting to get more worried about Clemson because I think FSU has really good defensive backs, at least at corner, and they were kind of challenging Miami to make plays. You saw that a little bit with Virginia Tech, too. Two games that Cam Ward didn't exactly pop off, although Cam Ward certainly found his later in that Virginia Tech game. But Clemson trusts their secondary to play man on Miami and make those wide receivers to make plays. The aforementioned Restrepo would have a tougher time.
But, Mike, is it fair to say even if you get to the ACC championship game and you lose, but you haven't lost, right? But you lose to Clemson, that's your one loss.
You're in the playoff.
You're in the playoff, right? That game's going to be more to Clemson than it will to Miami if that plays out.
I think we're looking ahead. Miami's got to prove that they can TCB week in, week out.
But I think you can probably run the ball against Clemson. And like their passing defense is good, but it's not like a top 10 unit. So
most encouraging thing I think that came from that FSU game, and I know Cam was a little frustrated by it, was they were daring him to play it safe. Kind of how here's a Mahomes comparison that's a little out there, but you know how teams just treated Patrick Mahomes like, we don't trust you to not take the treats way down deep. We know you trust your arm and you want to have these big explosive plays and you don't like to matriculate. Cam Ward took what was there. Miami absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage. This running game's getting better, so I do think that there's a path there. If Cam Ward cannot have turnovers the way that he had a clean game against FSU, and they go back to what I'm sure Mario Cristobal wished the identity was, which is more ground and pound, they certainly have a shot. And Miami as a team, I think at this point in college football, I don't think that there's a dominant team. I think there's like 6 teams that you can talk yourself into winning a national championship. Whether you have Miami in that class or not, that's not important. What I'm saying is Miami has a chance.
I also think Clemson has a tougher schedule remaining. They still have to play Pitt, which we know sometimes that hasn't worked out well for Clemson
and
Miami.
And they have to go to Blacksburg,
and they
too.
play South Carolina, which isn't a conference game, but it would, if they lost, obviously it would impact the playoff race there.
I have a college football admission to make. I told Lucy this privately. I'm going to say it publicly now.
Uh-oh.
I am falling for James Franklin and Penn State again.
Oh, no.
They play Ohio State this weekend. They
Don't
appear
do
to be
that.
different. This team appears to be different.
Don't do that.
Dan, they appear to be good offensively. They're really good on defense. They play Ohio State, and I am buying James Franklin at Penn State, knowing they're probably going to lose to Ohio State this weekend at home.
Those are called intrusive thoughts, and you can keep them to
Don't do
yourself.
that. Keep them to yourself.
I'm sorry.
I mean, something's got to give this weekend. Like Ohio State fans, the ones that I saw on my timeline were not happy with that very close win against Nebraska on Saturday. They were treating it like a loss. When you see Ryan Day's address on the feed, you know something has gone deeply wrong.
Lucy, I don't know how tapped into it you were on Saturday, but that was, to me, the prevailing storyline is how Ohio State, and we've seen other programs and their fan bases make this mistake. They're not satisfied with, okay, you can pencil us into the CFP. They want to win it every year, and it seems as though they're pushing out a coach, potentially pushing out a coach that's done a fair amount of winning for their program.
Yeah, he has an insanely high winning percentage at Ohio State. Like Ryan Day has lost to Michigan a few times, and then Georgia every once in a while. You know, this is a very successful coach. But after watching that Nebraska game, which let's just give a quick thoughts and prayers to Nebraska fans. I don't know if there's a fan base who has been through anything more than Nebraska, because like if you're a Florida State fan, yeah, this just sucks. But you know, there's no hope. Nebraska, it is just the same horrible nightmare every single week. But with this game specifically, I saw so many edits of Kurt Cignetti and Ohio State gear because they're already like, we want him to come here, which is an interesting thing. And I also think that is sort of related to Nebraska in the sense that Nebraska played Indiana last week and they lost by like 40 plus,
right,
where they had Ohio State on the ropes, and had Nebraska not Nebraska the whole situation, they probably would have won that game. I think there is like reason to be concerned if you're Ohio State, because considering how much money they spent on that team, like you should probably beat Nebraska by more.
Okay, but I will say this again and again. I don't think it's a reminder anyone needs, but I'm going to keep doing it. You cannot trust college kids to be consistent week to week. I'm not talking about football. I'm just talking about college kids. And so when there are close games played for an Ohio State, and when you guys laugh at the idea that a Miami team that I saw fall down 35-10 at California, that they can't go to Georgia Tech and lose a football game when I saw them down by 25 and with 4 minutes left in the third quarter not that long ago against a team that's kind of like Georgia Tech in California. Like, get out of my life with that as analysis. I do not trust when I see Texas do what they do week to week, or Georgia somehow lose to an Alabama team that's not that good. I do not trust anyone in college football to be unblemished anymore from week to week. Why? Because I don't trust college kids to be consistent about anything.
Except for Indiana. We trust Indiana.
Yep.
Dan, they're playing Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse.
They were down 25 points at Cal.
Yeah.
But their offense is so much better than any of these teams. I mean,
Agreed.
Maybe I'll give you like a little, like Duke will have a smidgen of life. Maybe like Syracuse they'll have a nice drive. But like and this brings me no pleasure in saying this. And I'm not even 100% doing the reverse jinx thing. I'm doing like a 50% reverse jinx thing here. Like they are just a better team in every way than last year.
Huh.
Agreed. And I saw Vanderbilt beat Alabama.
Right.
Vanderbilt's good.
They
was
are
a
good.
quality win for
They
Texas.
almost got their automatic bid. Had they beaten Texas, it
I
would have been
saw
great.
Northern
Yeah.
Illinois win at Notre Dame.
Speak-
and Northern
One-score
Illinois is
game
not good.
merchants, Northern Illinois, by the way.
Right.
Like that's their game plan, and that's what they do. Miami's not doing that. Miami's winning games by large margins, even when they're trailing by 35 points in the first half.
Argument for Miami is a defense has got to prove that they can hold Miami under 35 points, and I still think that Miami still hasn't put together its best football.
Really?
Miami has room for improvement.
Wow.
No doubt. I think that their offense is on a historic pace in that, across several places. But the stat that I was showing Jess earlier during one of the breaks was they've only had 1 3-and-out in their last 83 drives. They've had 3 3-and-outs all season. 2 of them came in the Florida game. That's the first time that anyone's had this kind of output to avoid 3-and-outs since 2004.
They are disappointing when they score 36. The number in that game was 38 against Florida State. Like, they are expected to score about 40 points a game, and that can erase a lot of deficiencies.
Someone brought up Cal. We laughed about this last week, but they're 8 points away from being the number 1 team in the country. I mean, 4 losses by 8 points.
This was they beat down Oregon State, but they've always been in close games. It's just tricky. We're back to work. We're not going to defend the merits of our victory at Cal.
Better schedule, Miami's or Indiana's? Can you explain to me? Can someone give me some analysis? Indiana is the quietest, undefeated team that hasn't trailed all season.
They still have to play Ohio State, Indiana.
They have Ohio State on the schedule. I believe they also have Michigan, so I think that's going to pretty much solve that equation. Like, Cal is a good team, but Miami's schedule just isn't as tough as having one top 5 team on your schedule makes a big difference.
I was so bummed watching Duke find a way to lose a game in which they had a +6 turnover differential. Jafari Harvey, the former Miami Hurricane, blocks a kick, and Brashard Smith, the former Miami Hurricane, runs one in. Manny Diaz, former Miami head coach, goes for 2, fails. I was so bummed because of exactly what you guys are all saying. I will concede. Miami's most impressive win is at Florida, and Florida's been a weird team to judge, but yeah, if you want to seize on they don't have good enough wins, they don't.
Even if Indiana goes undefeated, somehow they have to play in the Big Ten championship game.
They'll play Oregon.
Yeah,
most likely.
not the ACC championship.
So you guys aren't buying anything Indiana related. Like
I think they're making the college football playoff.
No one said that.
No, we're buying
Yeah,
Indiana.
we're buying it.
I think the conversation is that the Big Ten is just a better conference than the ACC. Which I think is fair.
Yeah, it goes without saying. I do think it's a little inflated as both the SEC and Big Ten have their media partners that are gonna pump that. But if you look at Indiana's schedule,
the ACC media partner is not pumping the ACC. Like Pitt SMU, a top 20 matchup is at 8:00 on the ACC network this weekend. That is a huge bummer. Pitt is a team like Indiana that
they're undefeated.
They're undefeated.
Dan, think about
They're
undefeated Indiana and the reaction to undefeated Indiana to the undefeated reaction that of Pittsburgh, in which I probably reminded a large chunk of our audience that Pitt is actually undefeated.
I saw that Miami gets relief from not having to play Pitt, that the schedule is made easier by the fact that they don't have to deal with Pitt, because all of us would wonder whether or not they could lose against Pitt. The last time they were in this position, when they were undefeated, they were number 1 in the country.
They had number 1 therefore. They were number 2 in the country, but if they won that week at Pitt, they would have been number 1 in the country headed into the ACC championship game, and they fell on their face.
I don't think Pitt and Indiana are fair comparisons because, yes, they are both undefeated, and they're both teams we didn't expect to be undefeated, and they may not have played the toughest schedule. But Pitt is winning games not the way Indiana is. Yeah. Indiana is blowing out pretty much every single team they're facing, which is crazy. Like you said, they've never trailed. Pitt's been flirting with disaster for a hot minute now.
I think that's why this SMU game is so big for Pitt, and no one's going to watch it. And what if I told you, Dan, there's an undefeated team in the ACC that narrowly beat Cal by less than a field goal, the best defense in the country, the Cal Bears, and no one's talking about them?
I don't feel like
Pitt,
enough
not
people are talking about Indiana or Pittsburgh, because
College Game Day was at Indiana this
Well,
weekend.
because no one takes them seriously in terms of winning the national championship. They might make the playoff, but once they get to the playoff, I think everyone assumes they'll lose, right?
People need to wrap their head around an almost statistical certainty, because Cignetti doesn't seem like a coach that you're going to catch napping. Right. I don't think
He never sleeps.
I don't think IU's approach to status where they're going to be looking ahead on folks. That dude will take care of business week in and week out. And even if they do slip up, they're in a conference where you have to justify holding them out of the CFP. You don't. Like, you have a one-loss Big Ten team.
You're right.
You're putting them in.
I have to remind myself not to do this too, Stugotz, because I've done it before. Like I've done it earlier this season with Miami, where I'm like, whatever, they're gonna lose the first big game they play. It's still an accomplishment to go 8-0 in a college football season, even if you, like, quote unquote haven't played anyone. Like, this Indiana team blew out Nebraska,
right,
who almost beat Ohio State this weekend, and Ohio State could not run the ball on them whatsoever. And then they had to play Washington with their backup quarterback and still won that game. So I think it's impressive, whether or not you think like they're an elite talent team that can actually go toe-to-toe with Oregon or Georgia. I still think that, like, the college football is more fun when we get to celebrate teams that are playing well.
But that's what people question. So I have turned on the 12-team playoff. I started the season by saying I don't like it. I love it now. Okay, because more teams have a chance to make the playoff. More teams' seasons are interesting, and the fan bases get excited later into the season. So for that, it is a great thing. But I think most college football fans think once we get to the playoff, it's still going to be something like Oregon and Georgia.
Is Kurt Cignetti
going
to springboard from $600,000 a year ago at James Madison to like 4.5 this year at Indiana to like 9 next year at his new school?
Did you see his incentives for
him leaving, huh?
winning Big Ten games? Like, apparently he is cleaning up nice this season with the extra stuff in his contract.
Let's transition here to a former University of Miami player who I think was somebody that a lot of people were laughing at this weekend. I'd like, from the group in general, because we haven't talked a lot about professional football today, I'd like to find and get some nominees for funniest thing from the sports football weekend. But Tyrique Stevenson is a Washington Commander. I'm sorry, he's a Chicago Bear. Excuse me.
That's mine, by the way.
And
former
then
NFC Defensive Player of the Week.
At the end of the game yesterday, now it was a weird game in that most of the game Caleb Williams did not do anything. The Commanders were in control of most of the game. But then there is a crowd shot toward the end of the game of Tyrique Stevenson of the Chicago Bears, very confident that this Hail Mary is not going to result in anything. He's asking for crowd noise. He's got his back.
The game is going on.
Yes, he's playing with the crowd as the game is going on. And he gets back into the play. But then he's responsible for this tip, is he not, that ends up behind him and can't end up behind him?
He tipped it, yes. He got himself back into the play and actually made the tip. You need to bat it down.
He has publicly apologized for this. I imagine Bears fans will be totally reasonable about this and realize that he got back into the play. But he apologizes, saying to Chicago and teammates, my apologies for lack of awareness and focus. The game ain't over until zeros hit the clock. Can't take anything for granted. Notes taken. Improvement will happen. # Bear down. Nobody in Chicago wants to hear any of that.
Are you kidding me? He is getting crushed on the score today. I mean, come on. That is a legendary local radio station in Chicago, and I am telling you, they are spending their entire day bashing Tyrique Stevenson. Even with the apology.
They're certainly bashing him, but I think the Shane Waldron and Eberflus are probably taking the brunt of it this morning because they blew it, and they still almost ended up winning the game because Caleb Williams in the last drive on offense was like, hey, we're gonna do something here. Like, let's cook a little bit. And then they actually blew it on this ridiculous Hail Mary. They gave Jayden Daniels like 13 seconds to throw the ball.
Well, he gave himself that.
Well,
in fairness to Jayden.
It's like a 70-yard pass with
bad
a rib
defense.
injury.
Right.
A lot of the chatter after has been like maybe Flores blitzed earlier this season on was it Flores or was it, I can't remember which game it was, but there was another Hail Mary earlier this season where they blitzed, I think they blitzed Darnold in the Vikings game, and the game was over. That was that.
Right.
Bears defense was like, we're going to just do the typical thing where we drop everyone back, but instead of having one guy in the end zone defending the deflection, he's going to be on the other side of the field taunting the fans.
Celebrating, yes.
And celebrating the end of the game. Like, it just is, like, so bad. And if you watch the video, too, there's,
Bad.
like, 4 Bears fans in the front row of the stands pointing, and they're like, the play started, the play started. And it's just such a disaster. But I really do think this is on the Bears coaching staff because this is just awful coaching. It's awful Hail Mary defense. They're confused about where they're supposed to be. And
it's handoff to D tackles.
Also, like, this team last year lost so many games like this where they were leading in the fourth quarter and then gave up a huge lead. And then they were like, I don't know, maybe we should fire our coach. Maybe we should just fire the OC. Maybe we should fire both. What do? Let's just fire the OC. We'll keep the coach around, and we'll decide like a week after everyone's already fired their head coach, and it's too late to hire someone that we really like. It's just like all of it's just bad.
I think, though, when you say blitz that play, the thing that I'm always scared of is if I blitz that play, all of a sudden they're doing something underneath, and now I've got 5 or 6 guys running into the backfield, and they're doing the flip the ball back scenario. There is a reason that usually people do not blitz in that situation, and I'm not afraid of Sam Darnold running down the field, but earlier this season we remember Lamar Jackson running 40 yards down the field. You generally go 3 or 4 pass rushers there and believe that an outnumbered wide receiver group is going to be able to knock the ball down because in most instances the ball they are taught, do not let that ball flip backwards. You've got to knock that down. It's super rare. I mean, the chances of that play succeeding are really unusual.
Well, you have to start by not taunting the fans because you think you've won the game already while the play is going on.
The play's been going on for a good 3.5 seconds.
It's absurd.
Before he realizes, oh crap, I got to get in this play.
It was like a 30-second long play. It was the slowest play in NFL history.
He did run with the ball for 12-plus seconds before releasing it 30 yards.
But 4 of those 12 seconds were spent celebrating by Stevenson. I mean, what are we doing?
Diana Rossini reported before that game, she said the decision on whether Daniels wants to play and the decision will be made by head coach, general manager, training staff, and doctors. There will be 5 voices on this. 3 of them want and need Daniels to play. The other 2 were
Wonder how that's
the
gonna
other
go.
2 were doctors and paid medical professionals. Stunned that Jayden Daniels would play in that game. It's a vote of 5, and the general manager and the coach and the quarterback all want the quarterback to play. He wasn't himself yesterday. He didn't seem
At
like
the end he was.
He didn't seem. I mean, he was able to throw the ball 70 yards
It was
and
a crazy throw.
move around,
to give your
yes.
team an opportunity in that spot.
So Dr. Quinn wanted him to play?
Yes, sir. Dr. Dan Quinn, and is it Adam Scott is their general manager? Whoever their general manager is. Also, Dr. Scott wanted them to play. I wanted him to play as well.
Interesting.
I wanted to ask you guys something based on what I saw celebrated yesterday that I felt I wanted them to stop celebrating it. They turned National Tight Ends Day into a national holiday, and I liked it at the beginning, but at the end I had grown weary of the amount of celebration there was of tight ends all over the league.
They get a day. And it usually concludes with George Kittle doing something big on prime time.
Yep.
I like them having a day.
Do you?
It also reminds me to cook up parlays. to score, anytime to score, it's a big touchdown.
There were a lot of
It's their
times.
day,
There was
right?
there was more than I think by the end of the day. I think there was an average of more than one tight end touchdown per game. At one point, they were trending more tight end touchdowns. There was more than one per game.
But you Stugotz, do you think Kyle Shanahan was like, oh, what's the game plan here? Well, it is National Tight End Day. Let's make sure to get George Kittle involved.
We got to get Kittle one.
You think that's how that's going?
No.
But you guys didn't think it was overdone, National Tight End Day? You guys all enjoyed National Tight End Day? Because I did right up until I didn't.
The novelty still hasn't worn off on
It was
me.
too much.
Really?
I like them having a day.
Wait, but Billy's saying it's too much.
Yeah, it was one of our losers and winners and losers presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly on God Bless Football this morning. It was the people that love National Tight End Day, big win. People that aren't a big fan of National Tight End Day, big loss. Because they would not stop saying, like, you just thought, like, okay, we'll hear this a little bit at the beginning. All day long, everybody was doing it. And really, when Tyrique's doing it, I'm like, too much, buddy. Like, you're trying to be like the crazy Joker and Tight End Day. You guys made special belts that you're giving out to the players at the end. And too much of the Tight End Day.
But Atlanta and the Buccaneers, that was a doozy. You had 4 touchdowns scored by tight ends. I mean, what a game.
I mean, I'm watching the Cardinals. No one can stop Trey McBride. I'm watching the Packers, and I'm saying I have not heard a more Lambeau name than Tucker Kraft.
Ooh.
Like that fits on anything that Lambeau is doing. If you tell me what does that person look like and what are they named, I would say Tucker Kraft is a Green Bay tight end.
Dawson Knox could be a good Packer tight end.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That is a good tight end name as well.
Where is he with the Bills?
Yeah.
Yeah. But a good Packer tight end, you're right.
Yeah.
He's good with the Bills. He'd be a Hall of Famer with the Packers.
Ooh, maybe.
Mark Andrews still running around out there, and he will be able to do button hooks like Jason
Forever.
Witten until he's 75 years old.
Poor Justin Tucker cannot make a kick to save his life this year, huh?
It's weird, right?
What's going on there?
Was it National Kickers Day?
Do any of us understand what it takes to be a kicker? Like when you say what's going on there, like do you think we're going to get good analysis from anyone in the world on what's going on there?
I don't understand how kickers do it. Sometimes you see the ball, they make it move, it goes this way, then it comes back this way, and it goes right back. Like I don't understand how you can listen. Some people have said that I've been critical of kickers, right? Fairly or unfairly. Not me saying the criticism of me being critical of kickers, fairly or unfairly.
You have been unfair to kickers. Period.
No,
Well, just one in particular.
I'm not certain. I'm not so certain about that. But it is pretty remarkable that they can just kind of completely control. If you were to roll a football, you have no idea where the ball is going to go, right? Like on onside kicks, you kick it straight into the ground because you have no idea which way the ball is going to go, and you hope that it just does like a weird hop, it goes straight up in the air, and then your team can get it, right? But kickers have perfected this craft where they kick a ball that's the exact same shape that's so unpredictable, and they can have it go in straight lines. They can have it zigzag this way and that way and go just in between the two uprights. It's incredible what kickers can do, and now they can do it from like damn near 70 yards. There was a 57-yard field goal yesterday that hit the net. That would have been good from 67 yards probably. Like, it's incredible how good kickers are. But then also, when they're bad, you're like, how are you bad? Like, how are you so good at this, but also so bad at this at the same time? It doesn't make any sense.
I told you, I read a story in Sports Illustrated, I'm going to say 10 years ago, that nothing in sports had been improved more than the ability for kickers to make kicks with accuracy. That across sports you can measure everything, and whatever it was in the 1950s versus whatever it was in 2010, the improvement was greater there than it was anywhere else. What I'm telling you about the life of a kicker, it is so lonely because the other players don't respect them.
Right.
They practice off by themselves, and they're just doing a singular thing all the time, and the only real friends they have are the holder and the long snapper.
Mm-hmm.
And the long snapper understands how hard it is to be the kicker because you only notice the long snapper when he screws it up. Otherwise, you don't notice it at all. Same thing with the holder. To have that person at the end of games with the pressure to have to work the following week with a whole bunch of people who already don't respect him, and now he's lost the game as well because they've been colliding and he never gets hurt. And he never risks collisions.
Well, Grammaticas get hurt.
Right, but when he's celebrating, that's right. Grammaticas get hurt jumping up and down, tear their knee ligaments when celebrating.
Yes. But for the most part, you're right.
I would not like to live in the place that kickers live in terms of pressure, because all of that seems like circus freak stuff that they're doing for a living, and then everyone in their locker room hates them when they fail.
I mean, I think they thrive under the pressure, right? That this is their moment. They go out there. I feel bad for punters. Like punters, who cares? I saw
Punters don't decide.
Yeah, but
games.
no one wants to see a punter.
That's my.
That's not true.
I mean,
No, but punters don't. You're not waiting for a game-end punt.
Yes, I have several times before.
I saw a
I
72.
don't know what you're talking about. You're being disrespectful.
A 72-yard punt this weekend that jumped out of bounds at the half-yard line. Like, it's an incredible craft. No one cares because you can't even really get mad at a punter, right? Even if it's blocked, it's not their fault. Oh, sorry.
It's just her Iowa biases that are making an appearance.
Greg the Leg's been a disaster this year, huh? Leading the league in missed kicks.
Oh, the worst.
6 missed field goals this year.
He cost us yesterday. Even when we're scoring touchdowns, we burn all our timeouts. Even when we score a touchdown and go for 2, we get a penalty that pushes it 5 yards back. Complete disaster.
Did you use 3 timeouts in the first quarter yesterday?
Yes. Yep.
What's going on there?
On a scoring drive.
So this is an interim head coach. What has he shown over the last 2 weeks
Nothing.
that makes you believe you should trot him out there? Is there anyone else that you can give a crack to?
Bill?
Can I get some audio, please, of Francesa complaining about Greg Zuerlein? Do you guys?
The whole time they're coming down the field, you know if you score, you need a 2-point play. You're going to be up 5. And you get a delay of game.
Okay, that's not on Zuerlein, but good enough. That is Francesa and the Jets. What was the funniest thing from the sports football weekend? If you had to choose one thing, because the Jets losing against the Patriots is funny. The way the Bears lost is funny. The way the Dolphins lost is funny. Heartbreaking to all the fan bases. Stugotz, it is crazy to me that the difference in that sport between 3-4 and 2-5 seems like the difference between having a season to cheer for and a total apocalypse. And that's what happened to the Dolphins yesterday, losing to the Cardinals at home and unable to get to 3-4, which makes you somehow feel like you still have a season, and 2-5 does not feel like you still have a season when you've gotten through the hard part of your schedule, the easy part of your schedule, 2-5. Like with a home loss to Arizona there, as Tua was supposed to be, strike up the bleeping band again, according to Tyrique Hill.
For me, the funniest thing is the Jaguars and just the way they lose and how they lose every single week. And the Packers got him yesterday, and Love got hurt, and Malik Willis came in, and he did the job. And the Jaguars are terrible. They're awful.
For me, if you're talking about all of football, you got to talk about that kicker with the Trump shirt who missed the game-winning field goal. That's just, especially with everything going on right now, that's just, mwah.
I have 2. So my first is I was following the Texas A&M Police Department tweet. Like, they were live tweeting throughout the game how many people they were firing.
Oh, wow.
Or not firing, arresting.
Ejecting.
And they caught someone with coke in section 336, and that is so not a Texas A&M thing. Very much an LSU thing, not an AM.
That's
A&M
our thing, man.
That was funny. Then my second one is actually from me. When we were at Ole Miss and we were leaving the field, we saw Kevin Costner there, and I didn't know it was Kevin Costner. My first thought was just, wow, that guy looks just like Kevin Costner. Amazing. And he was trying to get down on the field, and the security guard was like, "You don't have a pass. I don't know who you are. You don't have a pass. Wow. Can't go." And all his entourage was like, "Hey, he's really famous." And she was like, "Too bad, no pass. You don't get to go on the field."
Yep.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They never let him on?
So Kevin Costner did not get to go on the field. I got to go on the field, but Kevin Costner did not.
Apparently the only plug he has is in his scalp.
Did you get to the bottom
damn,
of
Mike.
Freddie Freeman's teeth situation? That
Yeah, I
you've
think he
been
got a
investigating all
new
show?
batch of fake teeth. He definitely had veneers when he entered the league. He fixed his grill up, but I think he's gotten them bigger.
I've told you guys that I believe that Texas A&M can win against anybody in the sport in a single game.
Yeah, that was gutsy what their coach did. What Coach Elko did to once again bench Wegman and go with Marcel Reed, which won them the game because they didn't have any answers. And again, then we're going to do this again because LSU's got another loss in that schedule. They're still going to be in the CFP conversation because LSU losses for some reason are good losses. They do this every year. They're not a playoff team. They're not. They lost to a bad USC team. You know how bad it is when Lincoln Riley gets a big win over you at USC, and we've gassed them up again. And I do think that Texas A&M is a team to watch because, yeah, they lost to Notre Dame at the beginning of the year. Texas A&M was not right. That was week one of a program. Week after week, they do appear to be getting better and pretty disciplined.
To make it more impressive, Ted Cruz was at that game, and they won. Like, they defeated the Ted Cruz curse, which is crazy. One of my other favorite funny moments of the weekend was Brian Kelly after the game being like, we literally never even remotely planned for the idea that we might face Marcel Reed. Like, they were like, yeah, we didn't watch any film. We didn't do anything. And it was like, what do you mean? You not even one thought, oh, maybe this could happen, and it's not. And like Weigman's been hurt throughout the year a little bit, so like this is not the first time we've seen him. Absolutely crazy coaching admission from Brian.
What did
Kelly
you
there.
guys make of Elko saying after the game, "This is a real program. We talk real culture here. This is not a fake program run by a politician talking a lot of." Everyone assumed that was about Brian Kelly, was it?
That was my question with it, because I think it was such a great comment, because I think it applies to Brian Kelly if you want it to, but it also applies to Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah.
So I have no idea who it was about, and I hope.
But he coached for Jimbo, didn't he?
Yeah, he
like
did.
He's friendly with Jimbo, right?
Then it's probably about Brian Kelly.
I hope he never tells us who it was about.
The only
so
thing
we
it was
can always
missing was a
wonder.
little at the end of that.
Yeah.
Make me slip off my stool.
I want you guys to tell me what I'm missing from yesterday's witching hour, which I have said involved largely bad teams and largely no stakes, unless you consider the idea that the difference between 3 and 4 and 2 and 5 are giant stakes, which can feel that way. You had if you had multiple televisions running, you had what looked like the Colts somehow returning a fumble 85 yards in a Colts-Texans game that was very close. You had the Pats over the Jets and everything that was happening at the end of that game. You had the Cardinals over the Dolphins and everything that was happening at the end of that game. You had the Jags and the Packers and everything that was happening at the end of that game. And I think you had the Bucks throwing a Hail Mary in the Bucks Atlanta game.
Completed, but out of bounds.
Am I missing anything?
Kyle Larson spinning out twice, trying to make an aggressive move for first. Probably way too aggressive when you're already clinched in the final 8 and you're just looking to get enough points to get in that final 4. But, he was risky.
You missed Jameis Winston.
Oh, that's right. I keep missing Jameis Winston. I keep missing Jameis Winston winning against the Ravens.
He's so good, man. Not great, but just man.
Fun.
Did you
He
see
had
that?
he had his pregame interview that he very clearly
So good.
spoke to the reporter, and they had an actual conversation before. And then when it seemed like the exact same questions were asked, had very different answers, where he was just going into giving all the glory to God, which is good. I just saw now another video where he was giving a pep talk to his team in the tunnel, and he told them to represent the names on the backs of their jerseys.
Why don't we play it?
And
Why don't we
represent,
just
I
play
got to
it?
put it in the video dump.
No,
Oh, no,
we
there it is.
got it.
Hey!
Opportunities come once in a lifetime.
Dan, I know what you're thinking.
What am I
Post-game
thinking?
show. We did it. We survived. Billy didn't tell us about how he did in daily fantasy this week. Not so fast, my friend. It's in honor of Lee Corso. Dan. They
Yes.
went to Indiana this week. I don't know
He
if you know.
did.
He used to coach there.
Yeah, you guys
He had a
mentioned
double-decker bus.
Yes.
Put on the sweater. Oh, the
From
chills.
Alapata.
Yeah.
Really?
You guys mentioned all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was moving. People were crying, Dan.
There were people crying. That is true.
Yep.
Eating meat, kicking footballs.
Yep.
You know one thing we didn't mention?
What's that, Billy?
Every week you go to dkng.co/Smirnoff, and that is where you can compete against us in our weekly fantasy contest. $3 buy-in. It's presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly. How did I do? Great question. Last week, I finished in the 40s, right out of the money. This week, in the 320s, but I'm well on my way. Yeah, I picked some tight ends. I picked good tight ends. It was everyone else that let me down last week. So, unfortunately, I wasn't in the money. I know you were wondering who was my quarterback, who was my receiver. We can catch up offline on that one. I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
What
I'm
do you
not
mean?
interested at all.
Not
actually.
interested. What do you mean?
Offline.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fan
we're
engagement.
not
That's what we're missing.
offline right
Fan
now.
engagement.
I
Fans
know.
engaging with us, playing fantasy against us. I like to fancy myself a man of the people. That's why I play against them every week. Also, because I can take their money.
But you never do.
DKNG.co/Smirnoff.
You could take their money.
I did
but
the
you
first
don't
week.
take
Well, I
their
shared
money.
with them. I only took some of the money. The other money went to the other winners.
Another contest that we have tomorrow that I want to remind you of, because I believe it's the best prize we've ever given, the most intimate prize we've ever given, as part of the Weekend Observations contest with Miller Lite. Tell them one more time, Mike, what it is that they can get, because if you love our show, as the most diehard and loyal people do, and I believe that group of people, Stugotz, is the most fervent zealots that you will find anywhere in sports entertainment. I tell you all the time how grateful I am for the idea that there are people out there who spend 3 hours a day with all of the options that they have with our show because they're addicted to the cotton candy elements of this. Those people will have a chance to win what I believe is to be the most intimate prize we've ever given here as part of our partnership with Miller Lite, which has been a very good sponsor to this show.
It could be a diehard fan, or it could be a total rando that found us on DraftKings.com/pools.
That's the way it works. I mean,
in my mind, I'm competing with Gladiator 2's pool. So I want to top that number. So we'll take any Joe Schmo that just comes across this on DraftKings.com/pools. You can find it on your DraftKings app. Real easy towards the bottom of, towards the top of your screen. Click that pools. And because this pool closes tomorrow at 9 a.m., it is closer to the top. But yeah, it's a real cool event. And I think if you are indeed a diehard listener that is hoping to make predictions and win this contest, you've heard us talk about how much we love going to our local watering hole, Flanagan's, being able to get the rock and rib rolls, Roy.
Nachos.
Flanagan's. We love Flanagan's, and to be able to do this with a partner like DraftKings and a partner like Miller Lite. And Miller Lite's been one of our great legacy partners here on this show for almost the entirety of the 20 years that we've been together, dating back to local. So this is a real cool activation that we got here for tomorrow's Weekend Observation. So make sure you lock your entrance in before 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Who's going to be back? Huh?
Yes,
so many options.
That's one of the bets.
I'll tell you offline, Dan.
Okay.
I'm so worried about you doing something shady with this.
What if no one is
teasing? No one knows.
I'm running your script through compliance.
Don't cheat, Stugotz. You're going to ruin it for everybody.
He's a cheater.
He is a cheater.
I was trying to tell
How
Dan.
did Duke lose that game?
One of the things we didn't get to somehow on the show today is one of the great botched national anthems of our time. Stugotz, have you seen this? Because this is unfortunate. I think Mike Ryan left the executive producer role, at least in part, because he was afraid of something like this happening to us on live television. Because when you're live, you can't make it unlive, and live is forever if you make the mistake that ends all of your sponsorships, because you've got aging hosts and a sloppy circumstance of disorganized talent all around them. Let's play the sound from C-SPAN and a man in the background with really, truly majestic founding father hair as this woman botches the national anthem.
Once we watched, we're so gallantly streaming. And the rockets, red glare. I fucked it up. Can I go back? Can I go back, please? Bombs bursting, and then I got too nervous. Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star spangled banner for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I am judging from looking at Mike Ryan that he had not seen or heard that because of how horrified he is of that happening through
The guy's hair you're talking about, huh?
The snow miser?
That's unfortunate.
Oh
that
my
was
God.
Fergie level, right?
I mean, she did rebound nicely. She did continue, and
Voice
she
sounded nice.
She's got a lovely singing voice.
Oh, she's tried the jazzy version towards the end, try to rebound there.
Billy, what are you making faces about out
Come
there?
on, man. What are we doing? Yeah, that was a great performance, except that one mistake. Yeah.
It's a pretty big. It was a pretty big mistake. Yeah, two mistakes, but yeah, you can't say. You can't be cursing during the anthem.
I bleeped that up. Let me start over. We're live. Just give it to me again, please, the whole thing again, so you can just really sink into, again, just how terrible this feels right in the middle of it. But it was
Dr. Frank behind her. What is this? Hair.
He looks like the kid from Texas.
Yeah.
Rampants we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare. I fucked it up. Can I go back? Can I go back, please? Bombs bursting, and then I got too nervous. Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Whoa, say does
Lucy is wincing. Lucy continues to wince here.
It's metaphorical. It's like the American dream. You get second chances or third chances. Maybe that was the whole overall plan.
I like it.
Stugotz, one thing I will not let us get out of here today without talking about a little bit more, no matter how giant professional football is and no matter how giant college football is the second biggest sport in America. The home run by Freddie Freeman as a baseball moment when a whole lot of people were watching. This wasn't some small World Series moment that people weren't paying attention to. They tuned into Game 1, Yankees-Dodgers, to get the height of the sport with all of the biggest stars.
I mean, it's Yankees-Dodgers, Game 1, and they have a lead. The Yankees have a lead in this game.
They are leading in extra innings. The postseason extra inning grand slam is a rare thing. And Stugotz was saying just before we turned the microphones on that Freddie Freeman is the Dodgers' third best player. And he's not wrong. In their prime, at their best, Ohtani and Betts are somehow better than Freeman, even though Freeman's a Hall of Famer.
They walked Betts to get to Freeman. They wanted Freeman.
Because Freeman's hurt is the reason. And for those of you not paying attention to how the reporting is going about Soto, the Dodgers are going to bid on Soto. The Dodgers want Soto to also be a part
be the missing piece
of this team. But watching the numbers, it was almost 15 million people just watching in the States, Stugotz. That doesn't count Ohtani. Ohtani hurt his shoulder here and showed you why it is that guys like that don't generally steal bases, because he hurt his shoulder, but he's supposed to play in Game 3. But this as a moment was excellent just by itself, but the call was also perfect. Listen to this.
Cortez delivers. Freeman hits the ball to right field. She is gone! Gibby, meet Freddie. Game 1 of the World Series.
I'm with Mike Ryan. All I see is teeth.
It's just teeth.
Yeah.
It's just one of those chattering things that the Joker would throw at you, just rounding the bases right there. One thing that really made me laugh from this game, and I'm really excited for people that love baseball that say you have to watch this series, it delivered in extremely profound ways. I got to see one of the game's greatest moments in World Series history. Only the second walk-off grand slam, I think, in World Series history, or the first in World Series history and the second in postseason history. It's just one of those moments that you always hear about and you fantasy book. And one of the things that made me really laugh around it was Amin was at that game, decked out in his Yankee garb, and he posted the video. He was filming that at bat, and he stopped as soon as he heard the crack of the bat. He knew. You don't actually get to see the ball go into the stands because he just knew by the sound of the bat and the look of the swing, this one's over.
I got to tell you guys, it's rare where you could say this, but tonight is a baseball night. There's a football game on, and I am glued to the baseball this evening because no one wants to watch Giants Steelers, do they?
Baseball gets a sound tonight.
Yeah.
Are we
wow.
Are we still sticking with that random Pete Alonso home run was the greatest home run in baseball history? Have we moved past that yet?
I think it was Mets history. I don't think
Mets
we were
history.
talking
No.
about baseball history.
We were talking about how special it was for baseball history that no one had ever hit a home run that gave them the lead down by 1 run in the 8th inning or later on a Wednesday night after 7:18 p.m. Pacific time while eating Taco Bell or something.
I said all of that.
Yeah.
The Pete Alonso home run pales in comparison to this home run. World Series home runs are better than divisional round or playoff home runs that aren't World Series.
This home run is not Kirk Gibson's home run, though. I mean,
I'm with you
Freddie
on that
beat
one.
Kirk, get out of here.
I'm with that one.
You got a limp.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I mean, before
You're going to remember those teeth.
Stugotz, Freddie Freeman did admit to being medicated. It's the only reason he's on the field.
Yeah.
Kirk could barely walk.
Wasn't.
Bone on bone.
Right.
Exactly right.
Yep.
I think one of the things you're going to be watching for tonight, and as much as I like to see New York suffer, I want them to make this a series. I want this to go 6 or 7 games. I don't want the Dodgers to just run away with this. But here is what you get to enjoy, Stugotz, when New York loses that way. Let's check in with our Knicks correspondent and his friends. Mero was watching the game as it ended, and you can see here New York suffering is exactly what it is that you want to enjoy as they're watching the end of that game, and it's just Yankee fans despondent in are those Barca loungers? What kind of chairs are those? Are those
There's a guy behind Mero who's just laughing at him.
I mean,
Lazy boys?
it's just horrible. What are those kinds of chairs? Can you guys help me? I don't know furniture terminology. And let's play the audio here of just sad Yankee fans. They wanted to be excited. They're 2 outs, Stugotz. If you can just get a pop-up, if you can just get a fielder's choice, you're going to feel like you get out of there with a split. Do we have any audio on that? Let's hear what we've got.
Let's go. You say hot shot to Rizzo? That's it. Game over. Come on, let's do it.
Watch out.
No. No. No.
Guy in the back.
That's the one place. Why they pitch him there?
Walk-off grand slam.
Why the f?
Hey everyone, it's Mike Ryan. We here at the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz are extremely proud to partner with Miller Lite to give you, our loyal audience, the opportunity to play along with one of the most popular segments that we have, Weekend Observations, presented by Miller Lite. On October 21st, you will be able to go to DraftKings.com in order to make guesses on what will happen during the Weekend Observations segment on Tuesday, October 29th. How many beeps will there be? Will Stugotz swear? Who will be the first person to interrupt Stu? Oh, the winner? Yeah, the winner gets a trip for you and a guest to come to Miami and hang out with us at a Flanagan's to watch Thursday Night Football on November 21st. Also, you get to see a taping of the show, and make sure you go to DraftKings and play for free, and then tune in on the show and check out how you did. I look forward to seeing you, or not, since only one of you will win this contest. Well, one of you and a guest. In all likelihood, that guest didn't do anything, and they should be very grateful. So make sure to enter. Must be 21 plus to enter. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details.